All right. How's everybody doing?
Okay, well, there we go. Got Hector coming in.
All right, they're starting to all kind of pop in. Welcome, Michael.
Hector.
Hector, what's up? Welcome to the rabbit hole.
Yay!
Let's see where we can end up today.
All right.
Yeah, I'm just setting it up to go live, guys. So you can start chatting amongst yourselves.
No, sounds good. Good. Yeah, Hector, we still talk about the first one where we started with one topic and all of a sudden we're talking about doing ayahuasca and all these great things. And like, guys, this will just goes anywhere it wants to go. It just travels. It's its own organic being. And so that was great.
Oh, yeah. I got so much out of that. You know, uh, Especially when we were on topic, when you were talking about, and it was you, Ross, who actually said, the voices. And I told you, well, I just dismissed the negative stuff.
Right.
And you told me, well, Hector, how do you feel if you're ever dismissed?
Right.
How did that make you feel? I mean, and what an impact. I thought of that all week. It's lasted for a long time. And what I've learned to do from that, even pain, if I get a pain in my back, I'm treating it as a message, and I acknowledge it. And then what you said here, which was really wonderful, is to transform it. So I take that energy and I just transform it over my whole body. I say, thank you. I'm aware that I have that within me, that it's power, whether it's pain or not.
Exactly. And that pain, I mean, that's all pain is just your body sending you a message that there's a problem. It's all it really is. And we our society tends to want to deaden that messaging right away. And sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes, it's just like, okay, I need to do this on a temporary basis and get this through. I mean, at the same time, when we look at, people who have, some of these addiction problems, they just are trying to deaden the pain, but it's not a physical pain. It's more of an internal, it's a psychological pain.
Yeah, and I think it's I consistently remind people that your unconscious mind thinks and acts emotionally like a 4 to 6 year old child. And so it's what's happening is your 4 to 6 year old child saying, hey, pay attention. Pay attention. Something's going on here. And that's really what's happening, right?
I mean, Gary's spot on. I mean, that's really how it is. And what is a child like? What is a 4, 5, 6 year old like if you're busy on the phone or busy working or whatever, and you're ignoring them? Dad,
Get
dad,
first. Yeah.
dad.
Yeah.
It's just like, what? I'm busy. Yeah, but. And so you're just like, you have to acknowledge it. You have to say, you know what? You're very important to me. What can I do for you?
Yeah.
And that's 2 minutes. But for some reason, we are stuck in this. I don't have 2 minutes for this child. And I was taught a long time ago that to when I want to change something internally, I acknowledge, that voice, and I say, I respect you. I appreciate your intuition. I appreciate your knowledge, your strength. How can we make this work?
Yeah.
And it's a much easier conversion. And it's Because
Well,
there's
even in
a
that too,
lot
though, I
of,
think, Ross, to again, keeping that in mind, that again, your unconscious mind runs everything, right?
right,
And like a 4 to 6 year old child, it may not always have the communication skill set to tell you exactly what's going on,
exactly. Yep. So I was about to
right?
say.
So you've
Mhm.
got to dig, you've got to really search, you've got to check in, you've got to maybe do some meditation on it, maybe
Mhm.
get rid of all the other distractions, really tone in on that, what that body is telling you, what that unconscious mind is telling you.
Mhm.
So yeah.
And we know that it goes right back to that reptilian consciousness of all I want to do is keep you safe. And
Mhm.
what you're trying to do is go outside my comfort zone. And that's where, when I don't know if you ever saw us use the rubber band analogy, where, you have a rubber band. I don't have one in front of me, but you have a rubber band and you're stretching it. That's your conscious mind trying to act upon your subconscious mind. And you
Mhm.
can do it as long as you can focus on that rubber band and keep it stretched out to expand your boundaries and such. But as soon as your conscious mind gets sidetracked by something else, that subconscious mind says, yeah, we tried it your way, we're going to take it back to my way.
Yeah.
And then boom, you're snapping right back. And that's where, whether it be whether you're trying to be doing something physical, trying to do a diet, trying to subside an addiction on your own, whatever the case is, it's just like, no, that worked for a little bit, but I still am more comfortable here because this is what I'm used to. It's the people who grew up with chaos in their lives. As children, they grew up with that chaos in their life. And as adults, they continue to create the chaos because that's their norm.
Mhm.
And when I was in management for 20 some years, and I had tons of employees that um, you know, that was just you could just see it. And you're trying to you try to work with them and such, and it's just like, this person just has all this chaos, you can just tell. And it only takes a few questions and like, oh, okay, now I know how to treat you. Now
Mhm.
I know how to get through to you. But it's the same thing. It's just like, why would you want this? Because for them, not me, for them, that's their norm. That's their subconscious comfort zone.
So Ross, do you think we're always trying to snap back? I mean, it's built into us that we're.
No, I don't think so. I think that we're not always trying to snap back, because as we progress and as we do, like what Gary and I have done over the years, and the processes that we've created, is that they're subtle enough and consistent enough that you kind of, for the lack of a better term, we kind of fool the subconscious mind because we're making such incremental changes. Okay, and they are on a subconscious level. So they're just and they're so every day, every day, every day, every minute, they're and so then that new norm just applies. And then applies when we talk to our students from the 7 day, they're that's what they're saying. They're just like, well, at first it was kind of like, you could, like, I could kind of find, kind of feel like of a fighting, but after a few days, and all of a sudden it's like that just kind of became my new normal.
Mm, okay.
And then and it wasn't a conscious effort. There's like, all of a sudden I was just, doing this, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, that is, your brain is taking the new coding, the new program.
Yeah.
And but if we do it subtle enough, then it works. But that's where, when we talked about, I think we talked about this in our very first live stream, is where, Gary and I, used to be, or still, I mean, we used to go to a lot of personal development seminars and such. And the thing that we saw all the time was that, people were just like on their game, because they were focused. They had the right environment around them and they were focused. And there's like, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. And then they get home, and then 3 or 4 days later, that
Mhm.
subconscious mind goes, oh, no, 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 no. This is not my normal. You were able to apply that because you had the correct environment, you had the people around you had the reinforcement around you. But now, we're snap back, we're in my environment where I'm comfortable, and then it just brings you right back. Now, this isn't 100%. Obviously, there are people that have been able to apply this, but our goal is to expand that and broaden that base of people who are getting that information and applying it on a day by day by day by day basis.
Yeah, and I think, Hector, it also depends on the intensity of the experience of the transformation, right? Some transformations hit you at different levels. You know, in the 7-day program, we talk about you know, there's seven mirrors of reality that we create, and depending on the mirror of reality that it impacts, it can ripple out through the others, right? And so yeah, so I think there's a lot of variables to whether it will default back or it will just stick and lock in. What we find is more, because again, having those massive life shifting and altering experiences doesn't come around every day, right? So what we do is okay, what can we do on the micro level that consistently chips away? It's kind of like the analogy of, you know, what's the easiest way to break down a big wall? You punch a whole bunch of little holes in it and then you just tap and it's done. Right? And so what we're doing is, in the matrix, we're punching all these different holes to a new reality, so that that old wall that was there no longer prevents you from going where you want to go. When you actually hit it after so many pokes, you hit it and then something else opens up.
Yes.
And that's where the consistency comes in. And that's why, you know, that's why we're doing these streams on a weekly basis, because it's not a one-time thing. It's not one approach. It's not one. If I kept drilling at that and did this big wall, if I kept drilling that same hole over and over, it's not going to have it, right? So what we got is, we got to find all the different areas and all the different variations that we can do, that our creativity allows us to come up with to approach it. Right. And until one day, you know, maybe it's on, you know, episode 6 for you and episode 20 for another person. We never know. Right.
But everybody learned where they're at through different experiences and through different modalities. So sometimes we're saying the same message, as Gary said, on a number of different shows, but we're saying it in a different way. So we're trying to approach the subconscious mind from a different direction. You know, one of my strongest that I've done when I've done counseling is that, you know, I'll ask somebody a question and say, well, I don't know. I said, okay, great. Well, if you did know, what would it be? And then all of a sudden, boom, there's the answer, because I just approached it from a different angle. And they're just like, and they just look at me like, how did you do that? And I'm just like, I said, I didn't do anything. I said, you did it. I just went from a different direction. And it's, you know, and that's what we do. I mean, what are we on? Our live streams are on 28 weeks. You know, we're just 28 different angles of, you know, this and this and this. And as Gary said, that's, you know, 28 different holes to maybe break down some of those barriers. And those barriers are your subconscious mind in most cases. I'm not comfortable with it. This is my norm and such. It's just like, yeah, but you know, let's pop a little light come in from the other side, and you can kind of look through that hole and just say, oh, that actually is pretty cool.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Even before ayahuasca, I had a real big experience, which, you know, just got me to the point where I wanted to do more. You know, it wasn't a little thing, it was a breakthrough, you know, just like ayahuasca, by the way. You know, it had I wanted to ask you guys a little bit about your experience. I know, you know, I don't want to take up too much time here, but
you're good.
All right. On when I had my ayahuasca, I actually had a person, like a guide, that was talking to me. And I remember that was my first experience with psychedelic. And later I tell it to turn off the psychedelic because it was bothering me, just like that. No more psychedelic, you know. But I do remember seeing a person, you know, that was on the couch, and someone was doing some kind of work on him. And I said, who's that person? And they said, it's you. We're working on you, you know, and a whole bunch of other things. But did you see, and I could talk about it forever, but, you know, what, did you have another person?
So I've had a few ayahuasca experiences, and I didn't have one person throughout my any entire journey at all. I've had a variety of different entities, and I couldn't call it a person because I really couldn't genderize it, right? Um, and you know, my first one, um, the entity showed up in the form of a cat, which is kind of interesting. And if you look at the metaphors of cat, they're actually in the spiritual realm, they're kind of the gateway between realms. And you know, and so, but I've had different experiences in that way, where it's no one, and it's again because things happen so quickly sometimes with the shifts and the transformations for me, that there's no one person being the beacon, if you will. But I did have, I mean, you know, and if you're doing it with the right crowd, your shaman, whoever's there, tends to be that central voice sound, the anchor, if you will, that does happen. Yeah, no, I haven't had that experience of one guide per se, but I have heard people that get the guides in the form of animals or individuals and things like that, for sure.
Yeah, for me, it was a real person, and it's so funny you talk about the singing part. You know, the ceremony, which is fantastic. You know, and it adds so much to the experience. I asked my person, which I know it was a person. I don't think I ever looked at that person. I knew he was walking next to me, because throughout this, you can hear in the background they had these beautiful singers. You know, just the shaman singing. And I asked, are there singers out there, out in the world? Because these people that were singing were helping you. You know, and they said, yes, you just have to look for them. And, you know, it's so funny. I consider you guys my singers. Because it's really some great ideas, you know, that I've used, that I've taken. But in life, you know, that's what I asked, because I knew I was going to get out of this ceremony. I was going to leave, you know, and I had a total, I think, of 6 ceremonies, you know, within those 10 days.
Yeah.
And I knew I was going to leave, and you know, was there help out there? And you know what? And I still hear the voices. You know, it's not that it's ever turned off or anything, but you know, that's why I love coming and listening to you guys. You know, and later I'll maybe even off this thing, I'll tell you other things, and maybe you can bring light to those things that happened even before the ayahuasca. But I don't want to scare anyone here.
Yeah, right?
We may be too. I think that you guys would understand it, but other, you know, reaching, you know, I don't want to scare our audience. Forget it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, I think that's I mean, we could go on, and there's so many things because, you know, from my first experience to my last experience, there's such differences in them. And each one could be its own 2-3 hour conversation. Yeah. 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 So do you want to kind of talk about the 3 feet from gold virus there, Ross?
You know, so the original, you know, topic for today's rabbit hole is the adage of 3 feet from gold, and that is actually was coined by Napoleon Hill, and where, you know, and this applies to virtually anything that we do in our lives, in any category, personal, relationship, business, whatever the case may be. And it's the story of the miner who started back during the gold rush, and he found a vein of gold, and he just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So he goes out and buys some more equipment, and they keep finding this gold. They keep finding more gold and more gold, and they keep going. So then he takes the gold and he does what a good entrepreneur does. He takes the gold and invests it into more equipment so they can get more gold. And they keep going, they keep going. Then all of a sudden, the gold was gone. And he's like, what's going on? And I just kept purchasing all this equipment, and I have all these employees that are working for me. Now there's no more gold, and what am I going to do? and and they kept going for a little while, and finally, it's like, he goes, I don't understand this. This is beyond me. I'm ruined. And so he took and just said, well, I'm gonna have to close up shop. And then he sold all of his equipment to, if I remember right, like a kind of like a guy that just kind of buys, equipment, pennies on the dollar, a junk man, I think is how it was put. And he sold all this, and he was telling the junk man the story, and he was like, oh, so that transaction's all done and gone. And so the junk man's kind of like, well, I got all this equipment, and I didn't pay very much for it. So he got some other buddies, and they went back into the tunnels, and he would. Oh no! So then the junk man went and talked to, I don't remember what, a geologist. I think it was a geologist type of person, and the geologist explained to him that when you find a gold deposit, it's not like this giant cave of gold. They're veins of gold. And he goes, so what this guy could have done is he could have gone, dig, 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 hit this vein of gold, gone through that vein of gold and run into more dirt. And not knowing that maybe there's another vein here. And then that's the story, is that so the junk man went through that vein of gold, and then 3 feet later hit an even bigger vein of gold. And then the adage there is that sometimes we just get frustrated, and we just give up. And in our respect, this is where, had the original digger possibly gone to his choice convergence point and calmed himself down, and got rid of the emotional charge of, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, living in the future of poverty and such, and gone and taken 2 hours and searched out a geologist like the other guy did, he would have hit that second vein of gold. He would have understood that, oh, I have to just keep going in different directions, and 3 feet later, or 4 feet later, whatever the case, but I'll hit more gold. He just didn't understand, he didn't understand the primary information for what he created as his new profession. So he was just charged with, I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich. And now I'm not rich, now I'm not rich. And he was just living on these two different planes of emotion, on the total opposite spectrum, to where the junk man was right there in the middle, just going, well, he hit that. I'm going to go talk to somebody. I'm going to go find an expert that can give me the knowledge that I need to make a better decision. I'm going to ask better questions. But before you can ask better questions, you need to make sure that the person you're asking those questions to has the knowledge. And and we can take that story and we can apply it to virtually everything we do. Relationships are a great one, where people get caught up in the bad part of their relationship, forgetting why they got together with their partner in the first place. There was something that Stephen Covey said when he was alive, which always stuck with me, and I've used it all many, many times. And when somebody is complaining about their relationship, oh, I don't love my wife anymore, I don't love my husband anymore, or my boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever the case, and such, and they say, how can I fix that? He goes, well, love them again. Just start loving them again. Go back and do the things that you did when you fell in love, because chances are you aren't doing that anymore. You kind of
You got caught up in the dirt, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You got caught up in the dirt, and not knowing, not realizing that ecstasy of romance, will taper off. And it's a great analogy. Both of those are great analogies for any type of a romance or relationship situation. Same thing with, I mean, you can do the same thing with a business partner. It's all the same thing. You start a business and you're like, we're gonna do it. Then you hit a couple bumps in the road. Oh, you're worthless. You're worthless. I'm gonna go do this on my own. Or you could even use it to a certain degree with rearing children. So at any time that you're interacting, if you're just a lone entrepreneur and you're starting a business and such, and you're going, and things are going pretty good, and you hit a couple bumps in the road, you're like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. Like what I was talking about yesterday is that along with this, a lot of people, they get into a relationship, they get into a business, they get into a partnership, because and for, I'm not going to say the wrong reasons, but they make a commitment based on probably the wrong reasons. That is not really what they want to do. And so when they hit those storms and they hit those waves, they're just like, this just isn't worth it. Well, then it probably wasn't your passion in the first place, because your passion is not going to push you through those storms. It's going to pull you through.
Oh, yeah.
That's the difference. It's just like, I have to do this because this is why I'm here. And you have to taste it. You have to feel it all the time, in the good times and in the bad times. It's like, this is why I'm here. If the universe had a purpose for me, this is it. I know it is. A lot of people, get into businesses because it's going to make them money. Just like the vein of gold. But then when all of a sudden, the money dries up or is not as great as it was in the very beginning, like, I'm just gonna wrap it up. Because it wasn't really their passion. It really wasn't them. They were just there for this.
And the big, and it's why a lot of personal development people talk about having a big why, right? Because when you have that big why, and we go back to the analogy of the 3 feet from gold, if you have these streams, streams of finances, streams of love, streams of whatever, okay, that they're and you're digging through, and you dig through the first one, I found love and I'm happy, and you have this window of time depending on that stream where you're experiencing that, and then what happens is, like Ross says, the crap comes in the way, the life starts to throw the things, and then you go through this dirt in between, and you lose sight of this, and you forget that there's more streams. Right, and it really applies to just about everything. There's a process I did years ago, 22-ish, maybe even 23 years ago, called the Enlightenment Intensive. And the Enlightenment Intensive was a meditative process that it's a 3-day, a 3.5-day retreat at the time when I did it, where a bunch of people get together and they're meditating on one question alone until you get the answer. And the question was, who am I? So our intention was, over a 3-day period, to directly experience the truth of who am I, right? And over and over and over again, what would happen is we would get to these places where, well, for me anyways, and from speaking to others, there was similar experiences. But for me, it would get to this place of just like you were so close to really getting what the essence of who I am is. And then something would distract me and I'd go into the, and you know, I'd be so close, and then distraction or frustration or emotions and all this other stuff that was not me, or perceived as not me, came in the way, right? And it was through the beauty of that whole program, that 3-day intensive. There's some people that still do intensive. I don't know if they do them 3 days anymore. I think they do 5 days and more and longer. But the beauty of that kind of environment was that we had no choice, because they took our keys for our cars, because they knew, right? It's like, hey, people are going to want to escape this thing and get out. Right? And I'm telling you, there was some of us at break times that were how can we get the fuck out of here?
I'm telling.
Yeah, because we literally felt like we were going insane. And you know, but it was the container of, hey, no, this process works. It has purpose, has intention, has structure, and you just follow the structure, you follow intention, you continue until it happens. And for a good chunk of the people throughout those 3 days, they get a direct enlightenment experience of who they are in 3 days, right? But when you go to life, right, when we get back to life, you don't have that container. You have the escapes, you have the excuses, you have the option to say, well, I don't want to face that today, or I don't want to talk about that today, or I don't want. And those things are things that are showing up because they're the dirt you need to dig through. Right? If you want the gold, you got to dig the dirt.
Right. And in today's world, you know, we have this.
Yeah.
And this is more of an escape mechanism than anything else, to where people are like, I don't want to deal with this, and then they just you know, there are no games on this. You know, I'm just like, no, I don't need that. I don't want that. That's just a distraction.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't have any of the notification things that come up. You know, I have my calendar, it has notifications that come up. But that's it, because they're all designed to distract you and pull you away and pull you into their reality. And I want to stay here. I want to stay focused into what I'm doing so that I'm in the moment. And you know, that's, Gary's so right, that it's very difficult to take that container with you. And you know, very disciplined people can do that. They can take their
in certain areas, but not all areas, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they'll be able to usually have one area where they can have that discipline, but then you find other areas where they just don't.
Right. You know, and you can consider the choice convergence point as a container. You know, it's a place to go, and you're just like, okay, I'm in the eye of the storm, and I can function from here. I can decide from here, so that you're just not in that chaos that's you know, that's going around you and around you and around you. Um, it's not a place. Well, I guess, Gary, I don't know. What do you think? I mean, how would you? I mean, it's a place that you can find a lot of answers. Um, but you know, your disciplines of meditation and whatever it is that you like to use, you know, are areas that allow the CC point to become more of a focus point, more of a stronger area for you, because you have more mental discipline to go there and stay there and remember to go there, so you don't get pulled into, you know, that those big spectrums of emotion. I mean, I watch people snap all the time. I mean, you can. I mean, if you look at social media, I mean, that's what everybody's got their cameras. Like, oh yeah, look at that person, they're just going crazy, and it's like, ooh, that's gonna make, you know, that's gonna get me a lot of clicks. And it's like, yeah, but that person has a problem. You see it as just something that's gonna make, you know, give you more traffic on your website or your channel, whatever. But you know, guys, that person has a serious problem. You know, it doesn't mean that they're mentally ill. It means that, you know, there is such a buildup of frustration and anxiety in their life that they just lost control.
Yeah, and ultimately the problem they have is that in their choice convergence point, they're limited in what they're focusing on.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's all a problem is you get, because they're still making the best, I believe they're still making the best choice they can with the resources they have
Correct.
in the moment that they're experiencing, right?
Hmm.
And so what we want to do with choice convergence is increase those options, right? To get to a place where we have a whole bunch of different hacks, if you will, that we can draw from pull from, to open up more possibilities for us.
Yeah. And as we've said in many of the live streams, is a lot of people don't even know that those options exist. This is how they've been all their life. They don't know there's other ways to go. And our job is just to say, listen, you know what? That might be the way you're at. We're not telling you to change, but we're just saying, look at maybe some of these different options that you've got that might give you a little better outcome. Because what this person that, had this explosion, you're just like, I hear what you're saying. I hear that you're trying to get a point across, but your method of doing it isn't really working. Maybe you should look at this. Maybe this option here or this option here will work better for you. So, and that's what the CCP does. It just looks, and it just gives you a point, a place to go to where you're like, okay, what are my options? What are my choices? Because there's more than one choice. There's a choice of exploding. There's a choice of ignoring. There's a choice of explaining. There's a choice of, um, having a conversation with this person and possibly a compromise. In most cases, what people just want to be heard more than anything else. But they lack the ability. That's how they were brought up, probably, in many cases. Or like I said, that they're just so frustrated with things in their life. But now we're just like, well, go here. If you feel that building up, go here and realize that.
Quickly reach out to Michael and Eva. Feel free to jump in and join in the conversation here, because this is a group conversation. We're happy to hear from you guys.
Absolutely.
While you're here.
Please.
We have another 20 minutes or so. So yeah, let's.
I have a question for you, Ross.
Yeah.
When you said people want to be heard, and they're in this fear, is it something like what you had said before, where you try to transform whatever that negative energy, you try to use it to transform it into a no fear situation for them, or is it more for yourself?
No, I mean, it just kind of depends. I mean, so like, as I said, I was in business management for a long, long time. And, they always sent me the people that were mad, that were upset, because they were sometimes that ultimately became our best customer. And because I would just, when somebody's mad or angry or frustrated, their first goal is to let you know, but their second goal is to unconsciously bring you to their level. Okay, and I'm not going to go there. So basically it's like, it's answering somebody, I hear you, I get it, I understand, and then repeating back to them, and then you'll just slowly hear, in many cases I'll say, you're absolutely right. If somebody's really, really mad at you, or not you personally, or a situation, the first thing you do is like, you are absolutely right. That is appalling. Then they're going to go, oh, he agrees with me. Now what? Because they want that, they want this, they want confrontation. And what I've done is I've just said, I'm right there with you. Let's see how we can fix this. And then you feel that energy just dissipate. And
so what's happening in that case there, Hector, is that because they're, as Joe Dispenza says, they're addicted to the drug that happens in their brain for that conflict.
Yeah.
They're trying to get it. They're trying to find ways for it, because those chemical reactions that happen for them, if they're not feeling it for a certain period of time, they've got to do something to generate it.
Right.
And you can either feed that drug, or you can say, well, you know what? How about you choose my drug?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, maybe
So we're pushers.
I get that.
But Gary's spot on, because I mean, I've been in situations where they're mad at a situation that happened with a business. And then I'll do, kind of my technique is like, you are absolutely right, but they want that dose of, adrenaline, that dose of testosterone. They want that so much that now they'll start attacking me personally.
Yeah.
Okay. Because they're just going to
they redirect it, right?
They're redirected. They're just going to keep poking and poking and poking, because they want that reaction. They want this. I don't want you to work with me. I want you to work against me. I want to have a fight here. And I just won't do that. I'm just like, say, listen, you know what? Now you're getting personal. I don't understand where this is going. You're going to need to calm down first before we can go any further. Okay. Let's get back, and then just kind of do a pattern interrupt and redirect them back to the initial problem. And to take that charge away, because you see it, and then you have to be real careful with your words. But they will, they'll eventually calm down, and then you just become friends, and then you try to find that commonality that you have now. You're both breathing the same air. I mean, start there. That's why the adage of, oh, you're going to talk about the weather is like, yeah, it's a great commonality. Where are you from? What do you do? Start talking about them. That's the best direction to go. If it's like you need a commonality, make them the commonality. What do you do for a living? How can I help you? You got family? You got kids? I do. And then just keep searching for those, and then you're just, and again, what are we doing? We're just finding a different direction to approach this situation. And so it's because if they're angry, okay, and they're charged, okay, all this is, and going off of what Gary says, all the blood in their brain just left the frontal cortex and went back to the back of their brain, their fight or flight. That's where all the blood is. That's why when you get upset with somebody and you're just like, oh, you're so frustrated, but you're so upset. And then 5 minutes later, after they've left, you think of all the comebacks you could have come, because all that blood just came back to feed the front of your brain where you do all your real thinking. So it's that's what you want to do, is you need to get them. You have to, I kind of see in their face, you can look in their eyes, you can just see how their jaws clenched. And you're just like, okay, I just need to calm this person down. I need to keep poking, do my own kind of poking, finding the direction that I can go, that I can just kind of get in there and get them thinking about something other than what's upsetting them.
Yeah, and again, to remember that it's a conditioning that they had based on their environment, right? I mean, yes. For whatever circumstance, situations that they grew up, they got addicted to that chemical reaction in their brain. I'm a prime example. I grew up in a home with an alcoholic father, so there was always conflict. Yeah. Always conflict. Like I don't remember very many times where there wasn't conflict. And when I became an adult, moved out, and got into a relationship, I would just the smallest things would trigger me, and the smallest things, and I would almost get a high off this. Let's talk about it. Let's argue about it. And over the years, I've had to consciously work at unconditioning that chemical reaction. Right. And so I've worked on less and less of those triggers, less and less of that reaction, less and less of the big blowouts. Doesn't mean I don't get angry now. Doesn't mean I'm the saint by any means. But compared to what I was and compared to what I grew up in, it's night and day difference. It's that but it's a conditioning now to and the way that you can tell as an individual what your chemical addictions are is to think about the type of memories that you bring up on a regular basis.
Yeah, good one.
Right? That's how you tell. If you're bringing up the crap that happened in your life, you're addicted to those kind of emotions. If you're bringing up, okay, so for example, in a relationship, if in a relationship, you're always looking at what's wrong with it, and then you're addicted to those kinds of emotions. Right. But if you're looking at the good part of it, and then you're addicted to that. That's a very good mark. Your emotions are a blueprint of what's going on internally.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to just ask you a real quick question. In high school, I remember if you would get into a fight with someone, you'd later become best friends. So, how does that work?
Well, I think it depends on the circumstance, I think, and a lot of variables, but sometimes it's just, you need to just get that energy out on that person so that it's gone and done. And then you don't have that animosity anymore. It's left you. So now what else is left? There's a void now. So now you're open for a relationship. Whereas before you weren't, because you had this wall, you had all this dirt in the way.
Yeah.
Right. And when you clear all that dirt out with the argument or with the fight or whatever, depending on how much dirt you have, then that opens way for the next stream, which is something other than that.
And a lot of times that's actually a cultural aspect too. So when I've had, again, these types of confrontations, I'll if I can get to that point, I'll say, where are you from? And then, and I'm not going, where are you from, so that I can find that commonality. I'm going, where are you from, so I can figure out the culture that they're working from. Okay, some cultures, this is how you meet somebody. Okay, and let's say this is that person. Okay, and they're going to push. And I'm just like, okay, I know where we're at. And so I'm going to push back. And then that'll just dissipate. Like, okay, I like you. That's how it works. All right. You're not, in other words, this is, are you worth my time, or are you a really weak person? This is what's going through their mind. Are you a weak person? I'm going to see how far I can push you. And if I just push back, and I probably don't push as hard as they do, but it doesn't matter, because basically what I said, this is the line. You can't go past this line. And then you'll see them back up. You'll see that energy just dissipate. And a smile comes over their face, and it's like, I like you. And then you're done. My best friend.
A quick comment Renata had on the page. She says that she had a person in her life which was looking for conflict, to find the smallest thing which could be upset about. Then he told me that it was when it was too nice for a long time. So the old program in him was hungry to argue.
Yeah. Very good. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And so the key is, how do we train ourselves? How do we hack the matrix so that we're hungry for love, hungry for passion, hungry for excitement, hungry for, for living on purpose, hungry for contribution, hungry for, bettering the world, hungry for choices and options that allow us to be free and express who we truly are.
Exactly.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what our focus is, and in all the different things that we do and all the different approaches that we take and all the topics that we come up with. It's what's another angle that we can do that. And that's, again, just another poking in the hole in your your movie screen of reality that you see, we're poking holes so that there's another reality that can come through. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it exactly. And and as I said, people will try to like just grab you by the shirt and just pull you into theirs, one method or another, and just like, that's just not for me. And then you politely excuse yourself. You're just like, yeah, this isn't going to work for me. And that's in relationships, that's in friendships to a certain degree, that's in business partnerships, whatever the case may be. It's like, if you have this, even though I always say, the strength of a team lies in their differences. This isn't differences.
Mhm.
Okay, you still want, Gary and I have a lot of differences, not so much differences of opinion, but we have different ways of approaching things. That's what makes us a strong team. Okay.
If you guys haven't told, we got different energy.
Yeah. So if you want to build a team, you don't want to, and let's say you're going to build a team of 5 people to take on a project. You don't want 5 people like you.
Right.
You want 5 people of different backgrounds and different intelligence and lots of differences, so you can pull all these and make something that's not you. You can make something that's just even better than you. I couldn't do this by myself. And that just makes things better, makes things stronger. They have different experiences than I do. That person can do this that I can't do very well. That person can do this that I can't do very well. But the common goal has to be the same. Has to, because you can't have 5 people going in 5 different directions. You just want 5 opinions of how we're going to take this in the best direction, and then letting ego step out of the way. It's like, this isn't my ball game. This is our ball game. We are a team. It always makes me crazy when I watch professional sports, where they take the quarterback and he's the one that goes up on everybody's shoulders. But when you had all these other guys here that were actually keeping everybody else away from him so that he could be considered the hero, it's like, well, I'm not really sure about that. So that's not really a team. But it's hard to lift a whole team up on your shoulders. But it's kind of like, well, okay, well, that's the culture, whatever. But everybody, of that team, everybody has a different position. They're all trained differently for that position, but they still all have one goal: get down the field.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Yeah.
What else you got? Anybody else? Eva, Michael, do you have any other questions you want to type in? Somebody else was trying to get through and he's having some.
There's Michael.
Hey, there he is. How you doing?
Good. I've just been listening to you guys. I have some other stuff that I've been trying to do. Not really a question, more just of an agreement with everything you say. I mean, like you're saying before, I had those kind of personality traits my whole life from growing up with alcoholic parents and religious trauma and stuff like that. And I'm working with it with my own self and my own kids, because my son's very addicted to drama and chaos and that kind of thing, just from my alcoholic background as well.
Sure.
So basically, I just wanted to thank you guys for speaking on this. I know there's only 4 or 5 of us in here.
Oh, that's fine. But a lot of this gets posted, so a lot of other people are going to see it,
right?
And then they start to make comments on it. So you had a background of alcoholic parents or parent.
Yeah, parent.
And then you became alcoholic as you older?
Yeah. So, I mean, my dad quit drinking when I was pretty young, but then he changed to drugs. My mom found a religious cult to cope with that instead of leaving him. Okay. And then when I was 14 or 15, I found drugs and alcohol, and that took 20 years of my life away. And luckily, having children and meeting my wife in my 20s started a long process of change that I'm still on.
We'll do that for you.
Right. So, and it's nice to see men like you and people talking about these things. and seeing things change. I know maybe it's, I'm just trying to remember what you guys were just talking about. You guys were just discussing something, and with the team aspect in that.
Correct.
Yeah, I often wonder if it's too big of a scope to have that hope for all of humanity in general.
Nothing's too big of a
We
scope.
can all get there.
Yeah, well, that's the goal, right? And that's why we do what we do. That's the objective, is to get there, or at the very least, raise our vibrational frequency so we're in an existence where only those people exist. That's
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
And at the same time, to know that if they don't come along for the ride, it doesn't matter, because it's my experience that matters.
Yeah.
Right. Because if I create that utopia based on those things, then it's out of my control.
Yeah.
Right. And, it's interesting that you mentioned, because for me, it was slightly different. So I had the alcoholic experience with my dad. But for me, I figured out very early that I wanted to be nothing like him.
Yeah.
Right.
So I went the other way, and I didn't do, and I don't drink alcohol at all, zero, none. I'll have maybe a glass of wine on very, very rare occasions, but I don't even finish it.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up, people, when people would ask me, when I'd go out to parties and stuff like that, do you want to drink? And I said, oh no, my dad did enough for both of us. It's like,
That's the way I am now, because I drank for so long. I haven't drank in about 5 years now.
Awesome.
And when people ask me, that's what I say. Look, I drank enough in my 20s and my teens to do me for a few lifetimes.
And Michael, I want to commend you too, because you made a conscious decision, and you said that you lost 20 years of your life. You had 20 years of learning, man.
Yeah.
You really did.
Yeah, I learned
20 years of going, this is not the way I wanted to go. And like Gary said, you finally, you kind of look back and said, you know what, this is not the way I want to be. And you made that conscious decision. Gary made a conscious decision that he's not going to be like his dad.
Yeah.
And and I've had events like that. My wife is in recovery. She has been for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And she just same thing. She just made that conscious decision. It's like, this is not how the story is going to end.
Well, and it's hard with knowing that. I mean, I've learned a lot over the few years about, spending 95% of our time usually in unconscious states and that. And I don't even think I was conscious 5% of the time, to be honest with you. It was probably less than that.
Yeah.
And it's been a massive shift. And I mean, I just found you guys a few weeks ago. I found Dr. Joe Dispenza's work a few years ago, and Bruce Lipton and guys like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm more aligned with that kind of thinking, those kind of belief systems, and challenging, old paradigms and things like that, and seeing what we can really do as as human beings and as a collective, really. So
have you gone back and watched our the live streams on the group page?
Not yet, no.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Usually when I have you guys on my Facebook, so when you guys pop up, I try to sneak in and watch like I did today. I got other things I've been doing, but I wanted to have it in the background just so that I have that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I beat my last addiction, really, is I used to just play a lot of Joe Dispenza's work in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Just somehow that empowering way of thinking, and similar to what you guys do, I think it just kind of, like you said, like it pokes holes, right?
Yeah.
And it slowly shatters that nail.
We like to call it a possibility thinking.
Yep.
It's like, really? I can do that? Yeah. Yeah. You can freaking do anything you want, man. As you know, it's so true. It's if you put your mind to it. But as I said earlier on today, is this, our job, because you're new, so our job is not telling you what to think. Our job is showing you different ways to think and different possibilities that are out there for everyone. And you're living proof. You made a conscious decision. This is how it's going to be from now on. And we've watched this, over and over and over again, but there are millions of people that have no idea. And we're constantly learning things. Yeah. I said in one of our live streams one time, I sat down and had lunch with Jack Canfield, and we were talking about the voices in the head and all this kind of stuff. He goes, I don't have voices in my head. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, I don't have that back and forth. And I just looked at him. I'm like, that's possible? I didn't know. I'm just like, I was, and that was a huge directional change for me.
I can imagine.
It was 20 some years ago. It was huge. I'm like, that's possible. Gary shows me things that I'm like, really? I don't believe you. I'm find Dr. Google, and it's just, but it's just like, oh, and then what it does is it takes your whole thought process, and it just goes boom. It goes in so many different directions. You go, oh, this is possible. And
That's where I've been at the last few years. Is I had that same
man.
that same thought pattern, and then as that's eroded and disappeared, now it's like, well, then what else is possible?
Exactly.
What else is there that I'm not aware of? Then
exactly.
Like, how far does this go?
It doesn't stop. It is infinite. That's why we call our this the infinity matrix, because it's infinite.
It's the quest to exhaust possibilities.
Exactly. It just is. So after we do the rabbit hole, Gary and I are back and forth for like a couple of hours, and we always keep saying that we should just record these one time, let everybody see exactly how we think of this stuff, because he'll say something, then I'll say something, and then we'll just kind of go, wonder if we did this, and then and when we first met, we were working on a different project, and that's a whole nother story, but we were working on this different project, and we would it was one of those things where he would write copy and I would write copy, and they're really close to the same. You're just like, or he's like, okay, this is as far as I got. Here, you do this. And I'm like, okay, I'll do this. And then here, you do this.
Yeah,
and
just as an inside note. So as an example of that, because we still can't do that today.
Yeah.
So for our weekly streams, Ross creates his content. I create my content. We don't communicate about it, and we show up on the stream, and they match together.
Always blend. We just say, what's the topic? How do we want to kind of approach this? And that's maybe a 10-minute conversation at the most. So this isn't the Ross and Gary hour. So, but at the same time, as we are putting ideas together, bigger and better ideas are forming.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great, because we'll be talking, all of a sudden we'll both just stop, and we'll just kind of stare at the screen. I'm like, are you thinking what I'm thinking? Because yeah. And then we're kind of working in a rabbit hole too. And we're kind of like, well, let's do it like this then. And then we'll just kind of formulate. And it's just like, boom, there it is. But it's possibility thinking. At no time I don't think in our entire career together, and that's been quite some time, have we ever said, no, that won't work. We've never started an idea or a project going, that won't work. Ever. It's like, what can we do to make this work? Because the outcome is that, and this is how we were talking about originally, is that the outcome, the future of that idea is so grand that we're like, we have to get here. How do we get here? And then we just pull everything toward this ultimate idea, the infinity process that we have. It's like it draws us to it, instead of us digging through all the dirt, even though there's dirt in that draw, but we know that there's that gold, that vein of gold. Here is our end process, is that vein of gold. And I don't mean riches and all that kind of stuff. I mean, just, I'm using that as an example of, that's the goal, and is drawing us to it. And that's what possibility thinking does. And now that is still changing. He'll send me a text, I just woke up, I got a great idea. It's like, we can do it like this, we can add a whole nother degree. I'm like, okay, let's work it out. It's not, it's never oh man, come on. It's never that. It's like, okay, let's do that. Let's figure this out. It's really cool. It's a great way to live, because that seeps in to everything that you do
Mhm.
every minute of the day.
And it's really the essence of what this whole topic is about, is being persistent, right?
Right.
It's being consistent and persistent towards a specific type of outcome, not being attached to the outcome, but being consistent towards working towards it.
Right.
Yeah.
Even what Michael said, that it makes you see what else is possible. When you said that, holy cow, it was like a wow, it hit me. I got it. I go, whoa, look.
I saw you do that. I saw you do your chair. You went like
Did
that.
you? Yeah,
Oh,
I did. I loved it, and that was valuable. You would think that it's the Ross and Gary show, but no, now it's the Michael show in there.
right. Yeah, that's what we want.
Yeah, I love it.
That's what we want. I see that, this process can be, and will be, a process that we can use with people who are dealing with addiction.
I was literally just going to mention that.
Because we can say, listen, right back here, let this draw you in, draw you out of something. Let me give you a real quick example. So, I told you my wife's in recovery. So my wife, I didn't find this out until the day after we were married, that she has is petrified of flying. Well, guess where we were going on our honeymoon? Hawaii. I wasn't going to swim. And so we're literally driving to the airport. She goes, yeah, I forgot to tell you. I'm like, what? And she goes, yeah, I have a horrendous fear of flying. And I'm like, oh, okay. She goes, I actually have to take a sedative. And I'm like, oh, okay. And she goes, she gets them from her dentist because she has a fear of dentists too. And I'm making her sound like, I hope she doesn't. So anyhow, so she goes, I have to time this pill. She goes, I don't like to take them. She goes, but, and she doesn't have no idea where this fear has come from. So, so she takes this pill, she times it just right. And she is loopy. I mean, it's just like, I want to she's so loopy, I have to tie a string to her ankle and just, like walking through the airport with a balloon. She's just like, I'm like, wow, okay, I can deal with this. So, it's like, so if we're, before we get on the plane, I got to go to the bathroom, I'll just take her and I'll just kind of put her up against the wall and just like, she'll do. I was like, stay here. Don't move. I'll be right back. And so anyhow, we were coming back from a honeymoon and there was some delays. And we are literally walking down the ramp to get onto the airplane. And all of a sudden, I just get pulled back. And I'm like, what? And her pill had worn off. And she just had this terror look on her face. And so we had to, I just told the flight attendant, I'm like, listen, I said, this isn't gonna work. We need to reschedule. So we did all that. So that's just, I'm setting the premise for this. So then years later, she was in real estate training, and there was this big seminar that she wanted to go to in California. And so she's okay. So I really want to go to this. This is really important. This is just going to change everything for me. I'm like, great, not a problem. And she goes, so I scheduled it. I made all the reservations for this date. And I'm just like, that's great. I said, but I can't go. I said, I'm already booked over somewhere else because I can't go. She goes, I know. She goes, I'm going to go by myself. I'm like, what? She goes, yeah, I'm just going to go by myself. I'll be fine. And I'm like, you can't be at an airport and take one of your pills and be left alone. You can't. I'm not going to let you do that. She goes, no, I'm not going to take them. Now I'm like holding myself up. I'm like, tell me this again. She goes, no. She goes, I want this. And I'm like, okay. I said, are you she goes, I've thought about this. And she goes, yeah. So, and she did it. You know, she called me when she's on the air, when she was at the airport. She called me when she's on the plane. She goes, I go, how you doing? She's like, I'm fine. I'm very nervous and such. I feel sorry for the person gonna be sitting next to me. She goes, because I'm probably gonna grab their arm. She goes, but I'm fine. And she flew down without an instant. She flew back without an instant. And my point of this is that she beat that fear because she found something that was bigger than it.
Mhm.
Something that was more important than that. And this was almost 20 years ago, and we fly a lot, and she's never used a pill since. She just pushed it out of her. She goes, no, all of this is just more important. That's petty compared to my goal. It's petty. And I'm like, I mean, it was amazing. I had never seen a transformation like that that somebody did without a coach, without, you know, I mean, that just virtually made the decision and did it on their own without somebody walking them through it. Granted, I was on the phone and all that kind of stuff, but that was nothing. It was not me that did it. She did it on her own. She's a very powerful woman. But, you know, but that's really what it was. She goes, this is more important. This little fear thing. And she did. She just went like, she just flicked it away and never looked back.
Yeah, and when we look at, you know, what happened in her matrix is basically what she did was at some level, she decided to tap into another, what we call mirror of reality, and make the shift there so that it impacted everything else, right?
Yep.
Because we have these different reflections of reality that we exist on. You know, we talk about it in the 7-day program. And depending on where a specific challenge or problem is in your life, if you change the reality, the impact on a different level of reality, then it ripples through. And that's basically what she did. She found something at a higher level of reality importance for her existence. Yeah, well, that's awesome. That's a great story.
Yeah. And, you know, and it's continued. And, you know, so now, I mean, she flies, I mean, she's getting on a plane in 3 days, you know, going down to see her parents. It's nothing. It's nothing to her. There's no, oh gosh, this is going to be, and I'm just like, nothing. And I was waiting for the bounce back. I was waiting for that subconscious mind saying, no, 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 you got me once. You're not going to get me again. Never again. It's really, really cool. She transitioned there. And my point on that is that was simply another, for me, that was another event that proved, you know, our theories of the possibility thinking and just like, okay, this is possible. That's all it was. It just proved me, it's like, this is possible. You know, when I talked to her about her drinking, because when we got together, she was already in recovery when we got together, and but I never really understood it. And I come from a family of alcoholics as well, and I made that conscious decision, like Gary did, that, you know, that is not how I'm going to be. I do drink. I have, you know, a glass of wine. It's just like that. But I keep it very, very under control, only because maybe that genetically or subconsciously that program is inside me, but it's never come out. But from the when I was very, very young, I made that conscious decision that I will not be like this. This is not how my family will live. Like what you did, Michael. You made that conscious decision. But still, to take that and see that somebody can do it on their own just from the pure thought, pure will. You know, you read stories about it, but it's, you know, again, there's people that are in that situation that they just don't know that they can do it. They just don't have that faith in themselves.
No, and I see that a lot through the work that I do. I'm labeled permanently disabled for my PTSD and stuff like that. And I work through my Instagram and stuff like that with addictions and trauma and mental wellness and stuff like that, trying to help people do the same. And it's very rare to hear people that do those things on their own. Like, I thought it was pretty common because it's my experience. And the more people I talk to, the more I hear that they can't do it. And that's what I like about what you said with the possibilities, is because I had tons of addictions. And when I had my children, the first thing I quit was street drugs and very damaging drugs. And that's why, it's because I found something bigger than myself. I had my wife and my children. And I had a reason. And then it just led into alcohol, and then it led into quitting marijuana, and then it led to diet changes. And I don't think it'll ever stop. I will always be evolving and trying to better myself as a human. That's why I'm here, to learn what you guys have to offer, and to see, again, how far can I take this?
You'll see a lot of when you start getting into the work that we do, you'll see that also have a dramatic effect on your PTSD.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe it. We're innately able to heal ourselves, and we are the creators of our lives.
We are.
Just need to give ourselves permission to accept and understand that we're greater than we think we are.
Yeah. And conditioning doesn't, I mean, we're conditioned from birth, I believe, to lose a lot of that, unfortunately. This isn't the type of education you get in school systems. And I mean, this is I wish that my son and other kids in his age and early teens were learning this kind of stuff in schools, and learning things that are empowering and that are, they feel more real and more tangible to me, at least. So,
yeah, I've always thought that too, that there should be, in the course curriculum, something that helps them to, like a life training thing, as opposed to all this other book stuff. Yeah. But that's a big project, man. I attempted to infiltrate the school system when I was younger, with some. So here's an example. I did I used to run a chain of hypnosis centers in Ontario, Canada, and when I started up the hypnosis center, one of my clients was a principal at a school. And she got phenomenal results with the hypnosis sessions, and then I talked to her and I said, well, I do have an idea on a program that I'd like to bring into school systems. Do you think it's possible? And she happened to have a class in her school which took all of the quote unquote problem kids from the district that no other schools would take. You'd have them in there, and she'd have them for this program that they do this thing. I said, perfect, I'll work with them.
Nothing like a challenge.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like, yeah, whatever, right? And I wasn't necessarily going into hypnosis. I was just doing things to get the kids to think differently and shift their thought processes and belief systems and a variety of different things. And I said, well, I've got a 12-week program. Just have me come in for an hour a week for 12 weeks, right? Well, after doing the program, they track these kids every day as far as their behaviors, their outbreaks, and all different kind of measurements of different things. And they actually have a report that they give every year, right, of these kids. And so month by month, they're doing these reports. And so after we did the program with them, the teacher had reported to me. So this was we had done it just before summer break. So they did our program, and then they had summer break. We didn't hear anything from them, the school or anything. September came around, and she came into the office, and she says, here's a report. I'm like, report for what? Because I didn't know they did a report. She said, well, this is a report we do every year of the kids on a month-to-month basis of their results. And she brought to the 3 months that we were in there. And she said, over these 3 months, the change in their in the major markers they had, which were like fairly steady. They would have these steady markers. They said it went like this. They said it's the biggest growth in these areas they've seen in any program they've ever done. And she had been teaching about 20 years at a time. And she said, but that's not the cool thing. The cool thing is that they went from here to here on this particular couple markers that they tracked. And then they came back so that they had July and August, and then September they came back to school. This was near the end of September she had come in. And for the month of September, they kept tracking. The kids were still, like 80% of kids were still at this level, right? And we still had a hard time getting into the school system because we made such a big impact. So much red tape. They wouldn't, it was like, oh my gosh. Again, it's that thing, it's out of our control to get in there, but we show that it's possible, right? Mm-hmm. And, I think part of the reason they even let us in initially was because we didn't have any, 3-digit extension on our names. There's no PhD, all those other things that came along, right? I mean, I had my PhD in hypnotherapy, but I never really used it because, anyways. And so getting in the school system was we kind of backdoored it because we had that connection. And we still had a hard time with that level of result. They hadn't seen that kind of result, and the sustainability of that over a summer when they didn't have that interaction, right? It was ridiculous. But yeah, I think that should absolutely 100% be something in the school system. And they needed it then. We needed it when we were growing up, and it absolutely needs it in this generation.
Yeah. Gary, do you know a guy by the name of Blair Singer?
Yeah, I know Blair quite a bit.
You know his sister, Sarah?
No.
I sat down with her one time, and she actually had a very, very similar story. And that she was trying to get her programs into the school system, and their test schools, where the numbers were remarkable. So the funny thing is, I'm kind of like going, well, okay, well, when the existing system is here and you go here, anything's remarkable. But what she had said the same thing. She goes like, we proved it. She goes, but they don't want to change.
Nope.
That's the whole thing. You're up against the simple fact that they just don't want it to change. And I don't understand it, but and she didn't either. She goes, they just don't. She goes, they just have this culture, and their culture is, this is the way it works. This is the best. This is the best thing we've got. And it's like,
it's designed to churn out factory workers, not empowered people, right? So
yep, there you go. That's a good point.
Yeah,
it's crazy. It just makes zero sense. My daughter is actually doing the experiential homeschooling. You know what that is? Elon Musk kind of made that very kind of popular about a couple of years ago, where, and then Denmark, I believe, is doing it throughout the country, where the child says, I'm interested in dinosaurs. And then you just simply take that interest and here's all the information about dinosaurs. And you take them to the museums. My daughter, they took her, my granddaughter, to the museums. They took her to digs. So we have some local digs here in Washington. And just because that's what she wanted to learn. And then she just absorbed all of this. And then when and then there's the next subject that she gets interested in, and then the next subject, and in between all of that, you're intertwining mathematics and writing and all that kind of stuff. But same thing, you just have that soar. I mean, kids are sponges, and if you let them learn what they want to learn, I mean, it's just like I'm jealous. I mean, I wish I had that ability when I was younger, because I had so many interests, but the system just keeps pounding you down. No, it's not important. That's not important. So yeah, it's definitely something that, hopefully somehow will change, but.
And those things contribute. I think those things contribute to this virus that we talk about, the 3 feet from gold virus.
Yeah.
They contribute to that, where we get conditioned into this pattern of seeing something we want, not being able to get there and being settling with that, or, you know, or having breakthroughs and then not being rewarded, or not being able to get to the what's next part of it. And so then we kind of default back, and then it's like, oh, why bother go through it, or why put myself through these things? That's the conditioning of our society. And so we need to look at, how do we break that mold? How do we interject something new in that?
Yeah.
So that a new story, a new theme, a new metaphor evolves from that for us, and for and the way that it happens, Michael, is that we become that example, right? The more that we as adults, with the wherewithal to kind of see that, hey, there's another option. The more that we express and show that, the more that it shows the possibility of, hey, if that person could do it, maybe I can too.
Uh-huh.
Right, and that's really the extent. And then from there, continuing to live that example by sharing, by teaching, by doing whatever is in your passion. Then it becomes this ripple effect. It becomes this drop in the bucket that ripples out, right? And the more of them we have it, and that's why we like to see, when we do our streams, where people are coming from, because we see them as these little light bulbs around the world, say, lighting up a different area, right?
I've seen that in my own life with my work that I've done on my mental health and my addictions and stuff like that. And the way my son was when he was younger, and the issues and the labels that he was given, I was so concerned on how do I help him. And I would just constantly focused on myself and how do I get better. And along the years, all of those issues and all those struggles that he's had with learning and stuff like that have, for the most part, fallen away. I mean, the last year's been tough. Like you mentioned, the education system's not really built around focusing, like what Ross was saying, on what they want to do. And when he got into, now he's in middle school, options were his thing. He wanted to cook, he wanted to do, and with what's going on now, they've had to take all those things away. Schooling's very limited. Then he gets stuck at home when they close the schools. And it's been really damaging for our kids. And I would love to look into the homeschooling program that Ross was just speaking about. But my son is like me. He really loves to be around people. I mean, that's my biggest downfall with being disabled and not working, is I don't get to be around people as much. But on the other hand, I don't really meet a lot of people like me, or that think like me, like you guys do in my personal life. I think I met one guy a few years ago at a it's like a carnival thing that we have every year here. And he's actually a hypnotist.
Nice.
We clicked like nothing I've ever seen before. And he actually lives one province over from me in Saskatchewan, and we still talk. I have never aligned with a stranger like that in my life. And I like people like that. He thinks out of the box.
Where are you, Michael? Alberta or Manitoba?
I'm in Southern Alberta.
Oh, okay, got it. Good.
Yeah. So you just connected with his energy.
Exactly.
You know, and again, that's where you're going to get that exponential growth, because you know that his energy infuses with yours, and it just starts to radiate more powerfully, and then that will you'll find that those people will just start being attracted into your life.
Well, and that's what I noticed watching you guys, because I watched one of your live streams like a few Fridays ago for the first time, and even in listening to you guys now, how you're saying how you guys both have your different, and when you guys come together, it usually is that's energy, and I see that. And then even listening to you guys talk, it's got to be that energy, because it just feels like, oh, that's like it's very the only word I can find is it's very aligned.
That's cool. Thank
you. There's like some sort of connection that I couldn't even put words to, that you just feel it. And that's that kind of thing. And I like gravitate more towards that in my life now. And it tends to do me pretty well.
It does. It will. You know, going back to the school thing. So my son did not do very well in school, really had a hard time. And it was frustrating for me at the time, because I didn't quite understand it. But you know, ultimately what ended up happening is that he was just bored. And you know, by talking to him, you know, let's see, he goes, I said, well, what's your favorite teacher? Who's your favorite teacher? And he would, Mr. Miller, I think it was. I'm like, okay, so why is he your favorite teacher? Well, because he's the smartest. And I'm like, oh, okay. and he tells me things, and shows me things that I don't know. And I'm like, okay. And so, we just kind of pushed on that. And, because I was constantly getting calls from the school, your son's having trouble here, he's having trouble here. And so finally I brought him to one of those meetings. And I said, tell them about Mr. Miller, and he just kind of goes, I said, your other teachers are boring the shit out of him. That's all it was. He was just not challenged. And then we did an IQ test, and he's right on the edge of genius. And I said, so who's in the wrong here?
Yeah.
If there is a wrong, I says, but so who's not coming to where they need to be. And and since then, I mean, he has has a degree in psychology. He's a police officer right now. Wow. And he's kind of absorbed my thinking to where he wants to change the police department from the inside out. And he's like, this is why things fail. This is why the things are the way they are, is because internally, it's the internal, it's not the external, it's the internal of the processes. He goes, and that's what I want to do. And like the school systems, they're just like, nope, 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 nope. The way it is. We are comfortable. It's like this giant subconscious mind. No, we're comfortable. We do not want to expand. We're comfortable where we're at. We don't want to change. We don't want to change. And they stifle
it. It's very frustrating to watch. Over the years, I start to see it more and more in everything I see, where my wife works. It just, so it's nice to know there's other people like that can see those things and see what needs to be done. But the hard part, like you said, it's the getting others to change. And I honestly don't know if you can believe other people. I don't really believe in the ability to change other people. I kind of believe in leading and living by your own example and hoping
that's how you make the other people change.
Yeah,
I think so.
They're going to go, how come all this is working out so well for you? Well, it's my frame of mind. It's the reality that I chose.
And I was very similar to your son in school, and my son was very much the same.
Yeah.
And I just found things outside of school that he likes. I found out we had him in baseball. He didn't really like it. So I just sat him down and said, well, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
And now he's in martial arts and that. And
that's what I did. That's what I do with my son. The same thing. He's like, he goes, he wasn't really a team player. He's just kind of like, a little bit more to the loner side. Yeah. And I put him into martial arts, and he just soared. He's like, now this I can get into. And he did really, really, really well.
Yeah, our education system would look totally different globally. I'm not sure what it's like in other countries. I've heard about what it's like in the United States, but again, that's hearsay. I know what it's like in the communities I've lived in, but again, that's just my experience. And I don't know, maybe there's education systems out there that look into what kids not only like, what are they really good at, what gets them going.
Not on a public system. You'll find private schools that'll do more of that, but not on a public.
Yeah, well, like I said, so Denmark, they changed their system to the more of the experiential type of system. That was just very recently. And then Norway, what they did was they realized that if a child is in school for 8 hours, at least 50% of those hours are in recess.
Wow.
And they perform better. All of their grades shot up.
My son was just telling me that he believes that's what he thinks the kids need, is that they need to have, this amount of time in class, and then the same amount of time in a break, and then this amount of time in class. And I was like, I know if I had that as I probably would have finished school. Yeah. I wouldn't have dropped out in grade 10, but again, I didn't have mentors. I didn't have people around me that could guide me properly. Right. So I was kind of left to my own. And when you're, 15, 16 years old, you don't really make the wisest decisions.
Yep.
Yeah.
Got it. So again, these other countries are showing that it can work. So they are opening up the possibilities. And that's how we can approach it. It's like, okay, we know it's possible. We know that it can happen. What do I have to do to make it happen here? Ask yourself the better questions. What can I do?
The other thing too, I think too, is to realize too, Mike, because you sent out something interesting there, that the fact that how old is your son now?
He'll be 14 this summer.
So the fact that a 14-year-old can come up with that level of wisdom from his intuition, because he's got nothing else other than that at this level. He doesn't have life experience to have that.
Yeah, exactly.
That means that what you're doing and what you're presenting is you're setting the stage for maybe his generation to make that shift. It doesn't have to be our generation. We may just be laying the foundation for that to happen.
Right. Yeah, culturally, that's what I'm taught. So I'm an Indigenous person from Canada, and culturally, that's what my ancestors taught, right? Like, you plant the tree in hopes that that tree grows, so that the next generations, maybe even 4 or 5 generations down, are swinging on the tire swing of that tree, kind of thing. Like, there's memes on stuff like that, and there's pictures to give it light. And I mean, I've thought that many times with being disabled and not working, as to what I'm going to create, and it might not be something I do. It might be the person I raise. And then it might change that for generations down the line. Like, it's not just about us, right? It's trying to look into the future farther as to how can I get that ball rolling now?
Right. Well, I mean, it's like when I raised my kids by myself for quite a long time. And it's what I always told them. I go, listen, my job and my goal is simply to make you better than I am. Because that's the only line baseline that I have is me, and my daughter has no problem reminding me that she's, well, why would I do that? You did it and it didn't work. I'm like, I know, that's my point. I said, learn from my mistakes.
Yeah,
and that's how this works. Your kids are going to learn from your mistakes, and that's how it works. Just keep going, keep pushing. And we are thinking, beyond our lifetime, beyond us. We're, what you just said, that tree, we're thinking generations down. There are cultures out there that do that. They still do that. They think generationally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're the rocket boosters, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And and some of these cultures, they already have 100, 200 years planned out. This is where we're going to go, and we're going to draw everybody into it. So it's cool.
Mary came in a little late. Mary, did you want to jump in and have any question or conversation? Or
you can type in your question, or you can turn on your microphone and just talk to us. You can turn on your video and just talk to us. We're here for you. Only you. We've been waiting for you.
No pressure. No,
it took me 45 minutes until I was able to show my face. It's challenging, right? Sometimes we just like to listen.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's
in the background.
I want to give her the opportunity if so. If not, that's fine. I think we should wrap it up because we're an hour and a half now. Do know that we're doing this every Friday for open chat conversation. So feel free to jump back in. Do have to re-register on the Zoom link to get the link again. But oh, there you go. Sorry, I'm thinking on the wrong conference. Okay. Okay. All right. She says I'm on the wrong conference. Okay. I have no children other than grandchildren. However, no, you don't need children. That we're talking about hacking the infinity matrix, right? So we just happened to be on that particular conversation about kids when you jumped in.
Mary, we call this the rabbit hole because it starts here and then it goes in so many different directions.
And that's just where we ended up when you went on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So
there's his notes.
Exactly. So just to remind everybody that we call this down the rabbit hole because, again, we like the interaction and we want people to ask their questions. We start with one topic, but we generally end with another. Gary and I, we just kind of come up with a topic. We don't create a program for this. We're not writing scripts or anything like that for the Friday shows. We are just like, this would be a good place to start. Let's start here and let's see where it goes. and it's really cool because it can also, you know, allow us to, you know, let's talk about time travel. Let's talk about, you know, alternate realities. Let's talk about, you know, 3 feet from gold. Let's talk, you know, we can kind of just kind of what's our interest, what piques our interest for the moment, and then boom, let's see what everybody else has to say. So that's what the rabbit holes are.
And as a just so Mary's contribution here, she did share a link there, which actually looks pretty cool. It's called an ICU program, Inspired Children Universally, and it's about teaching kids in a different way. So that's actually quite
cool.
Yeah, icuacademy.co.uk. Very cool.
Oh, nice. Very good. Thank you, Mary. Yeah, we'll look at that because I mean, Gary and I learn from these just as much as you do. So we don't want to be talking heads, and
Oh, nice.
Very helpful. So we'll take a look at that.
Requires them to come totally from intuition. Nice.
Wow.
Huh. We'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
I like that. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, I'll have to check that. Did you get that link, Michael? Because yeah, it looks like you're on the phone, so I don't know if you'll see the text with.
I'm on the phone. I don't think I'll see it. It'll probably show up on the replay though, I assume.
No, I don't think chat's showing the replay, but I'm what I'll do is I'll post it in the chat on the page. And
yeah, I can post that up too. So yeah, either Gary or myself will get it posted up.
I'm just doing it right now. Just in the comments on the page on this post on the page, you'll see it there.
Awesome. Appreciate that.
Yeah, right there.
If not, I'll ask Hector for his notes.
Yeah, that's right.
Hector's going to start his own segment called "Notes from the Rabbit."
That's right.
Yeah, right.
I'll just read up all the notes, you know, right after the program. No problem. Okay, magic words, possibility thinking, and changing the internal. Nice. That I got from you guys.
Nice.
Thank you very much, Secretary Hector. We appreciate that very, very much.
That's awesome. All right, you guys, we'll see you.
We have to have a third one now. Notes from
We'll see you guys next Thursday on the stream, and next Friday we'll be here with Down the Rabbit Hole again.
Thank you so much.
Contributing, really appreciate you guys, and yeah, make sure you share, invite, let other people know that you know, and let's get this humming with a good group of people.
This, you know, and because this goes to, you know, I send this out to Twitter, you know, to the group, to the pages. I mean, this goes out to anybody can be. They don't have to be part of the Infinity Matrix. We'd like them to be, but you know, again, it's just kind of it's out. It's just open discussion. And so I think it's going to grow really, really well because we're seeing different people all the time now, and the discussions are nice. They're awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much. Everyone. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Secretary Hector. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, guys.